Thanks in part to what we've been doing here. While there are problems, the American economy, I think, is the best performing economy in the developed world right now of any size. And you have been helping that. And the attacks on what the Fed has been doing to try and keep you from continuing to encourage the right kinds of things in Europe are about as disastrous a prescription for American policy. And I hope you will continue to ignore them.
Dr. Paul? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bernanke, if you don't mind, would you tell me whether or not you do your own shopping at the grocery store?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you're aware of the prices. But, you know, this argument that the prices are going up about 2%, nobody believes it. You know, and the old CPI says prices are going up at 9%, so they believe this. And people on fixed incomes, they're really hurting. The middle class is really hurting because their inflation rate is very much higher than the government tries to tell them, and that's why they lose trust in government. But, you know, this whole idea about prices and debasement of currency, if you loan me $100 and in 2 years from now I gave you 90 back, you'd be pretty upset. But we paying back money back that's worth 10 or 15 or 20% less, and nobody seems to be able to do anything about it. It's very upsetting. But it's theft. If I don't give you your full $100 back, if you loan me $100, I'm stealing $10 from you. So somebody's stealing wealth, and this is very upsetting. But you know, in January at one of your press conferences, you said that you sort of poked a little bit of fun at people to downplay the 2% inflation rate. But if you say it's 2 and I say it's 9, it's compromised for the sake of argument that it's 5%. That you said that if it doesn't hurt you unless you're one of those people who stick their money in the mattress. But where are you going to put it? Are you going to put it in a CD and not make any money at all? So this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't encourage the savings, and it just discourages people. But
Well, Joanne and Diana, the little girl was taken from her classroom here at Marcus Garvey Academy, she says, with no notice and no warning. She was taken into the nurse's office and given those 4 shots.
I'm her mother. That's my call. That's not their call.
Sigel Kinney is fuming after her 14-year-old daughter was given 4 shots by the school nurse at Marcus Garvey Academy without parental permission.
They were the hepatitis A, the meningococcal for the meningitis, and HPV, and seasonal influenza for flu. I never give her a flu shot.
At the request of Sigel's 8th grade daughter, we're not showing her face or using her name. The 14-year-old daughter says she was called out of class by the school nurse back on January 30th and sent to the school's clinic, which is operated by St. John's Medical.
She comes home, hand me the envelope with the shot record in it that they had given her in school. And when I looked at it, I said, "What is this?" And she was like, "They gave me shots and they took blood and took a urine."
And
Why would they give you HPV? I never wanted you to have HPV. And as far as you getting injections, you have your own private physician. I don't need them to do that in school for you.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Wednesday, February 29th, 2012, and I'm Darko. My website is ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. Also, YouTube. DDarko2012 is my YouTube channel. Also, a backup channel please subscribe to is DDarko2013. All the links, most of the links will be posted in YouTube's video description unless I mess up or there's a technological glitch like I had yesterday where I lose all the links and articles. So try to check them out. 20 economic statistics to use to wake up Sheeple from their entertainment-induced comas. And we'll go through these, not all of them, but the United States has more government debt per capita than Greece, Portugal, Italy, Ireland, or Spain. And it goes on and says there are clear signs that the economic activity is also significantly slowing down in the United States. For example, new orders for goods manufactured in the U.S. experienced the biggest drops in 3 years in January. U.S. consumers are busy racking up staggering amounts of debt. Once again, total consumer debt rose at an annual rate of 9.3% in December. And moving on here, U.S. Postal Service has announced plans to eliminate 35,000 more jobs. There are more unemployed Americans than there are people living in the entire nation of Greece. And number 7, the percentage of American men that have jobs is near an all-time record low, and that's doing horrible psychological, social damage on our society when the man can't provide for his family, right? But then again, you have the eugenicists and the social engineers, the economic, the people who are carrying out this economic warfare with the hidden inflation, like you saw Ron Paul pointing out, that women have to get out of the house and then they have to be able to pitch in, right? They shouldn't have to do that, but they do it, and they're told that, oh, you're free, you're equal to your counterpart, you're just like a man, you have a penis, you are a man. It's just like, no, you're not. So you can go ahead and do whatever you want to do, you're free to do that, but you shouldn't have to do it because, you need to feed your family. And then, of course, what happens? Well, when the man can't provide, he's laid off, can't find a job, well, then he's a piece of low-down, dirty piece of crap. And so he gets booted out of the house, divorce happens, makes things worse. And then what happens? Well, the child goes with the mother usually, who can statistically is not going to be able to support that family. The average duration of unemployment in the United States is nearly 3 times as long as it was back in the year 2000 and 2009. There were 2.6 million long-term unemployed workers, according to the federal government. Today, there are 5.6 million. Wow. Finishing up, the number of Americans on food stamps has increased by almost 50% since Barack Obama first took office. Not blaming him, that's just what the author included. Right now, 48% of all Americans are considered to be either low income or living in poverty. So I'm going to move on here because I have a lot of news to get to. More bad news. Sorry. But U.S. water bills to triple. Not again, like gas. Not based off any demand or supply issues. They're just going to jack that shit up. Irish EU treaty vote threatens chaos. So Ireland shocked Europe with plans for a referendum on the EU's fiscal treaty, a move that risks an unprecedented fragmentation of the Eurozone and a major clash with Germany. It gives the Irish people, I guess that's what we call them, we're just Sheeple slaves anyways, but the opportunity to reaffirm Ireland's commitment to the membership of the Euro. He told, and says here, all 3 major parties back the treaty, but analysts say there's a high risk of rejection by angry voters in the current fractious mood. And this is what it's all about. EU intrusive, that's what it gives them. EU intrusive powers to police their budgets of debtor states. Been denounced as feudal bondage, which is exactly what it is. Moving on here, we have third of UK postcodes have slow broadband speeds. So a third of homes in the UK have broadband speeds well below the national average. Again, this isn't based off any supply or demand issues. I've had personal experience with this ever since I've had internet. FCC finds many broadband providers give less than claim. That's right. So first nationwide study tests the performance of broadband internet providers is showing many companies do not provide speedy customers the speeds customers are paying for. Now, I went through this just personally where the last place I lived with Comcast. Now I have a kind of a smaller provider, telecom company. When I first moved here, I was paying for what? For 12, I thought it was 14 megabytes, but for whatever it's worth, 12 megabytes. That's what they said. And, it slowed down. It slowed down to about 5 megabytes after about a month. And then this past month, it was down to a half a megabyte. I shit you not, a half a megabyte when I was testing it. And I emailed them. And before they even responded back to me, it had shot up to 12 megabytes. Before they even recommended me to clear cookies, check for viruses, all that BS, right? So I know that they're doing it. But they'll try to get you to pay for a more expensive service. And don't fall for that. Give them hell. Argentina calls on firms to halt imports of UK products, so they're going to protest UK products over the Falklands, trying to grab their oil. UK sad and frustrated with Argentine decision to turn away cruise vessels sailing from Falklands, so they're turning away their vessels as well. Should Central America legalize drugs? Well, I think so, right? Because you always hear about all these casualties, all these people killed in the war on drugs, It's not the drugs that are killing people, like the guns. The guns don't get up and walk out of a holster and start killing people. No, it's the person. It's not the drugs that are necessarily causing all this indirect violence and killing and beheadings down there. No, it's the war on drugs. But the U.S. tells South America to shut up about legalizing drugs. That's because the banks and the bankers and the powers that be, they run the drug trade, right? And they run the banking scam. So, they don't want that to go away. Reuters Secretary of Homeland Security defended Washington's drug war strategy on Monday, despite calls for some Latin Americans to consider decriminalizing narcotics. She goes on and says, I would not agree with the premise that the drug war is a failure. It is a continuing effort to keep our people from becoming addicted to dangerous drugs. Pharmaceutical drugs? I'm not even going to go. All right, moving on to some more environmental eugenics type stuff. Japanese government softened tsunami warning 8 days before one hit Fukushima. That's right. Perhaps the nuclear power company TEPCO, government officials in Japan softened language relating to the threat of the earthquake produced by the tsunami only 8 days before last year's disaster. Then BP is back on the news discussing a $14 billion, I call it a shakedown is what it is. They call it a settlement. It'll never be what they actually should pay, but either way. And remember, this was all due to negligence. They could have prevented this. They were warned about a seal, but they didn't do anything about it. And the guy that, the head foreman, helped bring it up. He ended up diving into, while he was almost set on fire, dove into a pool of oil in the ocean off the rig, hundreds of feet, right? So that's what you get. BP contracts with defense departments surged since oil spills, so they got a monopoly on defense contracts for oil. Makes sense. British Petroleum. Royal Dutch Shell calls for carbon price action ahead of key EU vote. Basically going on and saying they need to take something like 1 billion or so allowances out of the ETS or emissions trading system. Talking about the carbon scam, another scam. Shell's executive vice president said, this is as key European Parliament committee prepares to vote on a set aside of EU allowances in a bid to raise the carbon price, the price of carbon, which has nothing to do with the temperature, right? The temperature actually drives carbon, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether that's real or true or fact. We're in la-la land now, guys. No justice. Judge dismisses organic farmers case against Monsanto. New York federal court today dismissed a lawsuit against the agribusiness giant Monsanto brought by thousands of certified organic farmers. Moving on here. Stomach viruses case increasing, so these stories are probably making you sick. It seems though everyone you know has been sick or has a child vomiting diarrhea because of an increase in number of acute gastrointestinal outbreaks in the region in the past several weeks. This is in Virginia. The number of outbreaks is 20% higher than last year. So, cannibals on menu for MP's odd day. A parliamentary inquiry into schools' ethics classes took a bizarre turn yesterday as touchy topics such as having sex with animals, euthanizing the disabled children, and cannibalism were discussed. And then we have after birth abortion. Why should a baby live? Journal of Medical Ethics. This is an actual study. It shows that both fetuses and newborns do not have the same moral status as an actual person. 2, the fact that both are potential persons is morally irrelevant. The authors argue that what we call after-birth abortion, i.e. killing a newborn, should be permissible in all the cases where abortion is, including cases where the newborn is not disabled, if it serves the best interests of the concerned adults, i.e. eugenicists. I'm going to speed it up here. Vaccination rights attorney Patricia Finn threatened with criminal charges. New York State demands she surrender names of all of her clients. Kind of a sad story here. Mainstream column admits vaccines cause cancer in pets, and I stopped that a couple years ago. The Petco sued for accidentally chopping off a puppy's ear and gluing it back on so that they wouldn't get caught, but they did. U.S. seeks new review of easier to spread bird flu. Easier to spread. Don't worry, it isn't as risky as people fear. Why anti-authoritarians are diagnosed as mentally ill. This is a psychologist. He talks with hundreds of people, and he says he's struck by how many of those diagnosed are essentially anti-authoritarians, and how many of those professionals who have diagnosed them are not. People with this, quote, disorder question whether an authority is a legitimate one before taking that authority seriously. Says some activists lament how few anti-authoritarians there appear to be in the U.S. One reason could be that many natural anti-authoritarians are now basically diagnosed with some kind of psychological disorder and medicated before they achieve political consciousness of society's most oppressive authorities. In summary, it basically says that most of these psychologists, psychiatrists diagnosing these people with this disorder are what? They jump through all these hoops to get to where they're going. In other words, they bow down to authority. World cooling has set in, warns astrophysicists, while BBC and global warming apologists challenge to end the cover-up, making the claim that current slight dimming of the sun was not going to reverse the rise in global temperature. Basically, official data shows the world passed its peak temperatures 10 years ago. But facts and reality doesn't matter, guys. You just have to believe in it. I have to believe in global warming. U.S. belief in warming rises with the thermometer as the spraying of aerosols increases, which is causing the global dimming. which is actually causing the warming. Common sense is not required. This is GGN. I'm Darko. God bless.